So it's my pleasure to introduce Charlene Lafontant, who will be moderating a patient panel today on the parents and pediatric family member perspective. Charlene was born with one non-functioning kidney, which was removed when she was a year old, and thankfully her other kidney has risen to the challenge for more than 50 years. With Charlene's daughter, when Charlene's daughter Gemma was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease at age 12, it was a really confusing and scary time for the entire family, and they were happy to have found RSN as a supportive resource. Gemma received a transplant from a family member at age 14 and is doing well. Navigating through medical complications of a child can be challenging and enlightening, and Charlene hopes to help other families through her work with RSN. So Charlene, thank you for being here, and I will go ahead and pass it along to you.
Hi everyone. And I want to share a little bit more about my story in a moment, but first I want to introduce the two panelists that I have with me today. One is Mary Dodd. Mary is a mom to Vinny. He was premature at birth and born with PUV, which is posterior urethral valve, congenital anomaly of the kidney and urinary tract, and most common form of lower urinary tract obstructions. The first hospital offered him no hope and no dialysis, and didn't think that he was going to live past his first week. But at a different hospital, he began perinatal dialysis, and then nearly 2 years later received a kidney transplant, and thriving nearly 15 years later. Vinny also is on the spectrum, but is strong and healthy and everything she could wish for. Yes, it's been a world of ups and downs for the Dodd family, but with a great team of doctors and supportive friends, they get through it all. Mary likes to garden and do lots of crafts, but sewing is her therapy. And as a way to give back and use her sewing skills, every few months, Mary makes 40 or 50 tote bags for the kids and parents in the hospital, which is lovely. So welcome to Mary. I'd also like to introduce Michelle. Michelle Kim is the executive director of the Hemophilia Foundation of Southern California, where she launched over 10 new programs and resources, including teaching and promoting leadership and independent skills to youth. The primary driver behind her relentless health care advocacy has been 20 years of providing for her daughter, who is diagnosed with 5 rare diseases, including an immune deficiency treated with weekly IG infusions, ITP and platelet dysfunction, end-stage renal disease, liver disease with refractory ascites, and portal and pulmonary hypertension. So welcome to Mary as well. Welcome to my two panelists. Real quick too, I wanted to add a little bit. The former panelist talked about living life and moving forward. And my daughter, Gemma, who is now 20 years old and had her transplant at 14, she is about to embark on her semester abroad in England next semester. So that is something too that, looking forward to what life can bring you, and I want to preference too that we're all on a very unique journey, and that none of our two paths are the same. However, what we do share in is an experience that has shaken us in some way as parents. We are resilient. We have the strength to go forward day after day, and we have a newfound empathy for parents who also have chronically ill children. So that's kind of where I wanted to start. I, again, welcome everyone. So as far as having empathy for other parents, how, in the beginning of your journey, tell me about how you started to cope with this new journey that you were on. Either of you can jump in.
Well, I'll start by saying that I'm a mother of 3. My daughter Kayla is my middle child, but my first child was diagnosed with severe hemophilia, thus my job as running the Hemophilia Foundation, right, which is a rare bleeding disorder, only treatable by IV, very expensive medication. So I felt like when my daughter started getting sick, I had some background as a medical mom. I have to say that in comparison to what my son had, my daughter's medical conditions were astronomically more severe and difficult and challenging. Her underlying rare disease is actually not diagnosed. She's in the UDN, which is the Undiagnosed Diseases Network, and it has been, since she's won, just a whirlwind of painful admissions, experimental treatments, and she just has gotten pretty much progressively worse and worse over the years. And so she just got diagnosed with end-stage renal disease last year. She got hospitalized for multiple infections, and she had fungal sepsis. She was given Ampho-B, which is an antifungal medication. Cher's nodding her head. Because the fungus went to her eyes, and they said there's a risk of going blind. And so we were like, give her everything. Ampho-B was one, but one of the risks was Ampho-B is kidney toxicity. And she unfortunately had already been on diuretic medication for her pulmonary hypertension and portal hypertension, liver disease. And so that did her kidneys in. And I was really quite shocked, honestly, even coming from this medical background. When nephro rounded, I was like, I do not want to be friends with you. I am already friends with so many specialists, and I don't want to see your face, even though I will admit that you are the nicest group of doctors. But I don't want to know you. Now I'm best friends with them. But so the diagnosis for us was very shocking. So just wanted to preface and say, I had to quit my job. I had the best job I could ever have wanted on the planet, and I had to quit, and I cried so much. It was very heartbreaking for me not to work anymore running the Hemophilia Foundation. I love advocacy. I know Lori said people don't like it, but yesterday she said people don't like advocacy, but I will say I do. So that has been really, really hard for just my family personally. Loss of income, loss of just social, mental, intellectual stimulation all around. So.
Well, and I think too, like as a parent, we are constantly advocating for our children from the beginning to the end. And like you said, what another doctor, another department, another something. One of the things that happened with my daughter is as a result of the transplant, she developed diabetes because of the medications she's on. They found that she had hypothyroidism. She had a compressed pituitary gland causing a cortisol deficiency. She has advanced scoliosis. So there's always these things that kind of pile on top of each other that people don't understand. Like you say, oh, my kid has this. Well, and you don't want to mention the 12 other things that are wrong.
I have 3 of those things. Thank you.
Right, exactly. And I think that's why, which is why we have this empathy for other parents going through what we are going through. It's not an easy path. And Mary, you too, you have a not straightforward path. Tell us a little bit more.
You know what? First off, we are really blessed with an amazing, amazing team of doctors over at Cedars-Sinai who have been with us since Vinny was a baby. So even though we've gone through all those rocky moments, they've kind of been my support to kind of keep me stable, and they don't hide anything from me. I know all the good and bad of what's going on. I'm that mom who will ask 1,000 questions, and I've got the greatest team that answers each and every one of them. So that really makes a big difference in our lives, because the first time around in a different hospital, it was just a whole different thing. Vinny is the youngest of 3 boys. My oldest was 20 when I had Vinny, so it was kind of built-in babysitter. Our middle one was only about 5 when Vinny was born. And the challenges there in life were the unpredictable events. We like to go camping. We like to go out. And it is true, the middle child is the middle child, and he'd have to live and adjust to the changes that we went through, because it was a lot of changes when Vinny was born. Kidney disease wasn't a surprise to me. My mother, in the end of her life, after being a diabetic for 40 years, developed kidney failure. So I kind of had an idea what I had going on. It was all different with Vinny, because it was peritoneal dialysis. It was so many medications, so many ups and downs and reactions to this and that. But we are fortunate. Like I say, I have a great team. We got through it, and there's still everyday challenges because he's also on the spectrum. So it's not just dealing with his medical health. Now we're dealing with, I want to say not mental health, but his academic abilities to learn things and just adapt. And I've always said it's kind of been a hospital kid. They're in the hospital so much, they miss out on these steps in life that most kids just go through. Vinny's, knock on wood, he's going on 15 years in February and doing really well, but we still live with, you know, the colds, the flus, the changing of a medication, and, you know, how's he going to react? I mean, recently I had to start giving him EPO injections again. And it's harder now that he's grown up. He's not afraid of shots from the nurses, but he's kind of gets really nervous when mom has to give him because it's been a long time. But and the whole handful of medications. So Vinny does really well. You know, I'm really glad, but the first years of his transplant were a little shaky, and we just keep going through it, and, you know, we take it in stride, and I know there's ups and downs, and I have a great team, and it just makes it, I think that's key. Having a great team of doctors just makes this wild journey a lot easier to deal with.
Agreed. 100% agreed. We're at Children's LA, and nephrology has been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Funny that we're all LA folk, because we're at UCLA, you're at CHLA, and you're at
Right. Oh, there you go. You represent all the main hospitals.
Yes, exactly.
That's funny. Well, let's talk about, it's so funny. You had mentioned shots. Of course, our kids are getting either blood drawn or getting shots or taking medications. When I first walked into, and by the way, so we were referred to a nephrologist because my 12-year-old 60-pound daughter had really high blood pressure. So, I mean, so we go to this appointment. We had no idea that, you know, what the future could be. We were like just kind of going in for a fact-finding appointment. And immediately the doctor went straight to transplant. And of course, then I started not hearing anything else. All I heard was transplant this, transplant that. And I'm like, what is happening? And then it was, you know, can your daughter take pills? And I'm like, no, we never really have had to take pills. So that became a fight with, oh, by the way, so she's going to need to take pills when she has a transplant. And I'm like, wait, how did we get to transplant? Anyway, so it was quite devastating just trying to work through figuring out what the next steps were, which is when I found Lori and RSN. And we were like, okay, we're going to have to learn how to swallow pills. That became a thing. Dealing with constant blood draws, all of those things. So little challenges like that along the way too can really make something that could be much harder. I mean, what I mean is like the further thing, the transplant or the infusions or whatever are this bigger thing. And then you can't have to even deal with the smallest things, like just getting blood drawn or taking a pill that we had never prepared our child to do. Believe me, our second child knew how to swallow a pill by the time this all happened. We're like, no, you're going to learn. You're going to learn. So what other things or small challenges that you found that you've had to overcome that may help another parent through that same thing? Any thoughts?
I think that question is really relative, Charlene, because
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Small, maybe swallowing pills for you. For me, my daughter's been swallowing pills since she was 3 years old.
Right.
So it's not been an issue.
Yeah.
But as far as just changes that we had to make, it's kind of a big one, I think, for some people, is that we now do home hemodialysis. And that was the #1 game changer for us. We were driving from where we live near Glendale, Pasadena, to the west side 4 times a week. And it was a full day affair. We just could not. Right. It was so painful. Plus, she has a stage 4 pressure ulcer from her hospitalization. So she has this giant wound on her butt. So driving in the car was very, very difficult for her. And then, you know, not eating during dialysis and all this kind of stuff. It was really, really, I don't even know how we did it. And so doing home hemo was just a game changer. It's really difficult though. But also my daughter is, and I don't know, maybe you guys have tips, but she is also very mentally challenged now with having to get on dialysis. she doesn't want to do it anymore. She doesn't go to school because it's just too much. So the teacher just comes to our house, and she also stopped walking when she was hospitalized for half the year. And so she wants me to do it at 6 in the morning when she's sleeping. And I'm like, okay, if there's one thing that I need, it's my sleep. But I have been making that sacrifice to do that. And then the other thing that's been just hugely helpful, I think, is because there's so many doctor visits, it's just whenever possible, I'm all about telehealth, which I think is just so wonderful that person has this conference online, because traveling to a conference anywhere, we're like dying for support, peer support, knowledge, education, and we just can't travel. I haven't had enough confidence to yet travel with King Arthur. That's the name of our dialysis machine.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry to drone on.
No. I mean, the one good thing that came out of COVID was having normalcy for having Zoom conferences and telehealth, and all of those things really came into the forefront, which I think has helped all of us.
Exactly, Charlene.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, then, yes. So the road to normal is different for everybody, obviously. Mary, you had mentioned that you're still camping, like you guys still.
You know what? When we were in the hospital for about almost 4 months when we started dialysis, because he was doing peritoneal dialysis. Right. So I was training with Davida. We had a great trainer in the hospital that he worked with me every day. I went and spent hours with him to get me prepared because I was going to bring him home. Actually, the weekend he came home on dialysis, we went camping with his machines, with his bags of peritoneal fluid, with everything. And it's never stopped. I would go camping with his dialysis machine all the time. And I guess Vinny he was born into the medical illness. So swallowing was difficult in the beginning because he had been intubated for a long time and just didn't have that ability. But when it was time to change him from liquid medication to pills, I'm so glad he adjusted really easy. Getting blood drawn, never a problem. He's been doing it his whole life. So, I mean, I guess I got that little edge that it's normal for him, this life, where, because he was born with it. So nothing is odd. But when certain things like wisdom teeth right now we're dealing with, they're impacted. So that's a whole new one for me. Now we have to find a hospital that can remove his wisdom teeth because of all his medical condition with the transplant and the medications. Everybody has to connect in order to make a wisdom tooth pulled. So, but yeah, I guess I would say he's been born with it. So it's not really been, we both kind of just went with it. So I wasn't in shock with anything, I guess, but it's been a wild ride, but it's been kind of smooth at the same time.
Right. Michelle, how about you? How do you find normalcy in your family when you have two kids who...
It has ever been normal. I do have a third child. He's the last. And, when he was young, he would ask me, why don't I have a medical alert? When am I going to get my Make-A-Wish grant? Things like that. Our life is what he thought was normal. It's interesting because, and he was never really sick. But then when he had little things like a sore throat or fever, he'd be like, Mom, you have 100.1.
Right.
He knows that when my daughter has a fever, she has immune deficiency. She's very immunosuppressed. I freak out. And then for him, I'm like, oh, you're fine. And then I realize, oh no, he's seeking that same attention and reaction. I will have to say that looking back on his life, because now he's a sophomore at UCLA of all places, but he didn't get really any attention, honestly. But he is the most well-grounded, independent child out there. So I am very thankful. I said, this must be the secret to child raising is, not being that helicopter parent, not paying them much attention.
Yes.
And, being there when they fall and not being on them and nagging them and making them do things. So it's been kind of funny and interesting.
My second child's the same way.
Yeah, right? I mean,
they really, and there was certainly a period of wait a minute, you forgot about me. And I'm
Right.
like, no, I
Right.
didn't actually forget about you. I had you going to other people's houses and I set
I
up all of
arranged rides. I arranged
yes,
food for you.
right.
I mean,
But they don't realize that you were thinking of them,
yeah.
and you, even with the other child being there.
Yeah, it is really hard because, for example, I missed his high school graduation because I was in the hospital with
Right.
Kayla. So that was really heartbreaking. I realized it was kind of more heartbreaking for me because he was like, well, yeah, I'm kind of used to that, Mom. And, that's a little painful.
Right.
He had his parents' weekend when he was a freshman at UCLA. He didn't even tell me about the events because he said, I just assumed you wouldn't be able to come. And I was like, no, I want to come, but I didn't really want to go. But I did.
Right.
I did try to make it out to a few events, and so that is kind of now our normal in a way. It
Right.
is different for everyone.
Yeah, everyone's normal is different.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah, I think with on the sibling, staying on the sibling topic, like when my youngest one was constantly called sister when we went to appointments. Oh, sister, come here. Hey, how you doing, sister? And she was like, my name is Josie. It is not sister. And I'm like, I understand, but so many people, they don't know who you are. So they just know you're the sister. And she hated that title. So
well, I actually hate in the hospital when they call me Mama.
yeah.
Like, well, you know what, nurse? I know your name. I know you have patients, but here's my name on the whiteboard. Please don't call me Mama. Mama bear, whatever. Just
right. I know. It's hard. I mean,
I know it's hard for nurses.
Instead of not addressing them, they find a way to address. But at the same time, it was really heartbreaking for her because she's like, that's all I am.
Sister,
I am just
right.
sister to the patient.
Yeah.
Mary, how about your kids? How the siblings?
The older one was already 20 and an adult, and he had been through the 2 miscarriages prior to Vinny. So he kind of knew that maybe this third one, there were problems in the pregnancy. He was born at 6 months. So we knew there was something going to be going on. So he'd been older and he kind of already had his life, but he wasn't so affected by everything. The middle one, though, he was only 5. So he was the world. And he still is our world, but he too went through that. It's okay, Mom. I understand if you can't make it. He, like your son, he wouldn't even tell me because he knew I was so busy with Vinny, But he's actually, I share him. He's the son my husband came with, so I shared him with his mom. So for a couple years after Vinny came home, I had to let him go live with his mom just to get things situated here. But I brought him back home, and he stayed, and he continued to live with us until he graduated college, pretty much. So, but he in the beginning, I could tell he was a little hurt, like, you spoiled me so much, and now Vinny's here and I don't get any attention. But he got to understand, and we still try to do as much as we could to say, we're going to go camping, or we're going to go out, or we're going to do something. But with, it's unpredictable, the life we live. He could be feeling good today. Something could come up tomorrow, and it changes everything, the whole dynamics of everything we have planned. So I couldn't plan things. Like, he would say, Mom, so-and-so is going camping. Can we go? We'll see. That was what it was. We'll see. We'll see how Vinny's doing. I hate it. I got to a point where I wasn't saying we'll see how Vinny's doing. We'll just have to see how things look at that time. That's how it had to be with him. But he adjusted to it. And as the transplant years went on, Vinny got stronger, and we could go out more and go out more. So there was a moment there in the beginning we would go, and then I got scared, and things changed, and but he adjusted, and he became, just as he got older, just understood everything more. I think he once told me, Mom, I understand. And he's now he's in Texas, and he moved away, but we're actually planning a road trip. So, hoping everything stays good, because I know it's cold and flu season, but we stay up on our flu shots. And, I kind of, during this time of year, I've always just kind of like, we stay home. We don't need to really go out too much, because I just don't want to take a chance. Yeah. So that's how COVID didn't change my life. It's just, I've always been that way. So,
right.
But he suggested well, and he's good. He's like you. I didn't give him much attention, but he still turned out to be a great human being.
Funny?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that has been, it is actually now, the siblings don't really understand so much what's going on, but I will say that the brothers did choose to go to college locally. I did push them
Yeah.
to get out of California because, you're
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
Yeah.
California. I'm originally from New York, so I'm like, go to New York, get tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. My youngest tried to go out of state. She wanted to. She got accepted a bunch of places, but then Berkeley came through, and she's like, "Ah,
Yeah, well, hello.
I guess I'm staying in California." She's kind of
And
bummed.
the tuition. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the tuition. Well, let's talk. Okay. So we talk about siblings, but in general, being family focused rather than illness focused, I think is always something that is hard. It can be hard, but we all seem to be managing it in different ways. Michelle, how would you speak to that? Being family focused rather than illness
yeah,
focused?
like for Mary, bless your heart, you go camping and all of that. We used to love traveling, especially fishing, but I just don't have, again, that bravery
Yeah.
to take King
Yeah.
Arthur
Yeah.
and the home hemodial and all the other conditions she has. But, one of the traditions we have is, my daughter has a favorite restaurant in K-Town. It is shockingly expensive, but we make a sacrifice and we all meet there. We go there and we celebrate at least once a month. It's called Parks Barbecue if you're ever looking for a good
Thank you. Good tip.
your thing, but it is the best. And so that is like for us one example of like a tradition. I think like maintaining traditions that you had before. The condition is a way that maintains normalcy because normalcy again is very relative for us.
Yep. Yep. We Gemma always wanted to celebrate the 22nd of each month because her transplant was on the 22nd of February. So for years, the 22nd of every month meant she wanted mac and cheese. Because that was something leading up to transplant that she couldn't have because it has so much sodium in it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So still to this day, if she comes home from school, she's like, it's the 22nd. So I get my mac and cheese. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, mac and cheese it is. Small little things.
Small little things.
Small
Yeah.
little things. How do you each take small moments of peacefulness for you and your family?
Small moments for me and go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Michelle.
for either you, for
Mary,
you or your family. Yeah.
Well, I
Is it-
occasionally will sit down and watch a movie with my husband, but like I say, I love to craft. I love to sew. Those are the things I do. I have an upstairs. I go upstairs and it's set up with 6 sewing machines. Each one has a different thing I could do. And I'm a collector of fabrics and I'm a collector of all kinds of crazy craft things. So that's my piece. When I tell my husband, you're home from work, I make dinner, I get everything situated, Vinny's already showered, everything's good. I'm going to go sneak away for a couple hours and do my thing because it clears my head and allows me to come back fresh and get ready for whatever the next day is.
Right.
So that's kind of our family thing because my peace of mind, it helps the family because
100%.
if
Yes.
I'm just going crazy, it just messes the dynamics up. So
Yeah. If mama's not right, the whole family's not right.
Yeah.
So true, Charlene.
Exactly.
Mary, I totally respect you for being an artist. I'm zero crafty, so that's awesome. I
Thank
think
you.
me, I kind of look at it like 4 parts. I go mental intellectual stimulation, physical stimulation, social. For me, I'm an extreme extrovert, so being home every day
Mhm.
by myself is really challenging, and then also spiritual. And I actually found something I started playing pickleball. So if you raise
All right. Pickleball.
that's intellectual, social, and physical all in one.
All in one.
If you're interested, reach out to me. I'll share more about pickleball. So that is one thing I picked up last March, and I'm like become a fanatic about pickleball. And then I actually we just started going back to church. So I think for whatever is your spiritual thing, that is mindfulness or meditation,
Community too.
that community as well. I think that is really, really critical. I did want to speak to one thing, and I saw something quick in the chat also, because we talk a lot about siblings. But not everybody is married, and hats off to all the single moms out there. But I have to say that this journey on the marriage has been so difficult and so challenging. I am married, and my husband is a saint, I think, but I yell at him every day. We're like, it's so hard. I think it's like the divorce rate, something like 90%, or couples raising like serious chronic, 5 of them. And I don't know, it is truly a miracle that we're still together. One of the tips I think for us is that we have kind of a division of labor. Like, I realize there's no way he'll be able to go to any nephrology visit and remotely understand even with BUN, creatinine, anything.
Well, it's impossible to have all the background, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you go into a doctor's appointment, you as the mom, and I'm assuming for all 3 of us, are the main holder of information.
Mhm.
So when we go in, we know what's going on. And if they were to go in, you'd be like, oh, didn't you know about XYZ?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But that's impossible unless you're both there for every appointment to have that knowledge.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I felt bad for my husband, like that you don't know everything and I expect you to know everything, but I don't tell you everything. So
Exactly.
it is what it is. Sorry. It is what it is. We have a couple of questions in the chat. Let's see. How do you deal with burnout? That's very interesting. And I think we talked a little bit about the activities that some of us do: sewing, crafting, pickleball. Love that. I do puzzles. I've gotten into wooden puzzles, which are super fun. And also just trying to stay up with some sort of yoga, Pilates. Maybe it's just a walk down the street with the dogs. Something that also helps with burnout. Do you all have pets?
I have a couple little dogs.
So that's an extra thing for you to take care of. Yeah.
No, that's on Vinny and Dad.
Right.
No,
Pile that on. But in
Yeah.
a most lovely way. I do love our family pets, and they do offer a lot of comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter had a service dog. She passed away, but it is something to possibly look into for anyone out there. The organization that we go through is a nonprofit called CCI, Canine Companions for Independence. It does take a while. For us, it took 9 months, which was actually very fast. And they do have a very high level vetting process, but everything is totally free. All the support that you get, and you go on campus and train for 2 weeks and get matched with a dog, and then you have ongoing lifelong support. And the service dog went with my daughter and stayed in the hospital for weeks at a time. She was very well known at UCLA, and that was just so lovely. My daughter doesn't really have any friends, and so Viva was her friend, and then Viva passed. So that was really traumatizing, as anyone who has had a dog knows. So yeah, thank you. Exactly, Suzette. So I encourage you to look at that for adults and for children. I think the starting age is 5, because I think my daughter got Viva when she was 5. And so this is not just like, rinky dink think. This is a very legit nonprofit, actually funded mainly by the Charles Schulz Foundation, Snoopy.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the had one of the regional centers is in San Diego, but they have 4 regions all across the United States.
Excellent. Yes. Canine companions can be a real lifesaver for many reasons.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to one thing that you mentioned, though, when talking about that was friends. So I think a lot of chronically ill kids have a social issue with trying to hold on to or meet or have friends. Gemma, certainly when she went through her transplant, her friend group, I look back on it and, clearly not very supportive. A lot of them just kind of disappeared, which was weird. So she really backed off and just became very insular, and has always had in general an issue reaching out and making friends. She's getting better in college, and is aware of it and is doing things like finding a job on campus to try to meet new people. But it's hard, I think, because people don't understand what you've been through. They don't, it takes more effort when you are sick and in the hospital to have a friend visit, call, text, something. What are your experiences with your chronically ill child and having friends? I mean, it's hard. Your heart breaks for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Vinny had a lot of friends and when he was in school. And these were kids that just went all the way up till junior high when COVID hit, and I started getting him homeschooled. So he misses all those friends, but he was really active with his friends and real social. And COVID kind of put everything on freeze in everything for ABAs, for any therapies that he was getting. Everything stopped for almost 3 years. So we just recently got, I found a group in Chino Hills that works with also they do security dog, not security, dogs for the kids. I forget how to word it, but it's called Pause for Success.
Oh, they're like
And
therapy dogs?
Yeah, yeah. So they were connected with this ABA Behavior Highway, which is an organization that works with kids on the spectrum and with disabilities. They were there doing just a social group on Saturdays. And I saw them and I said, can I bring my son? You know, I would like him to start socializing with other kids. So they had different age groups and they put him in with the age group. And what an amazing thing it was. Actually, now they are Vinny's ABA service and they work with him and they come out twice a week and work on life skills and social skills and just getting him back out there to mingle with friends, because he's to us, he doesn't stop talking, but to take him out with around other kids, it's kind of complicated for him, and he needs to learn how to do that. And I watched him last night. We went to a little birthday gathering for another transplant friend of his who he's had since he was little. And there was another young boy there also on the spectrum, and just trying to get Vinny to talk to him. So I realized he really needs to get involved in more social groups. Now that things open up a little bit more, I can get him back out there, but just finding those social groups, because he won't go back on campus. He's going to continue being homeschooled until he graduates. And, but you just got to reach out, find some kind of social group or anything. I think Vinny loves it. He loves meeting people and going places. He like will meet them, talk for like, how are you? Fine. That's it. And now I do a plant trader thing once a month, and they also are in the same world that we are with kids with disabilities. So there's more kids there he gets to meet. So it's just, you have to I'm always reaching out, trying to find different things for him to do where he can meet other kids. Because it is hard. It is hard because our kids are just a little bit different. And then, you know, the isolation of the last 3 years made it even harder. But I just reach out to organizations and try to find anything for him. So, but he does well. He just needs to work on a little bit more social skills. But I'm real excited with where he's at now.
It's great. Michelle, your daughter's situation is a little different.
Yeah.
How is that working?
She has so many medical issues. She's not eligible for transplant, and truthfully, she needs liver, kidney, and liver has already turned us down. Kidney's not. They kind of laugh when I bring it up. And so she's been home for a very long time, and really, quite truthfully, she has no friends. She has her brothers, and she has us, and of course, extended family. Not the same. They really just don't understand the journey at all. I mean, they're very supportive, but can't understand. And so, you know, I try really hard. I am this extreme extrovert, and she is by nature an introvert, but my heart breaks for her every day because she really doesn't have, you know, anybody. I will say that when she was in center, we went to the, if anyone's out there, hi, Century City DaVita Center. She loved it. She there was just an organic support among the kids and the moms. During Halloween, we would bring treats. Christmas came around, everyone would give each other gifts and bring food. And it was just like, it was very sad. You know, you walk in and all the kids are on dialysis. On the other hand, it was just such an organic, pure support group. And I was always telling the social worker, you need do something with this. Look at these kids sitting in a circle.
Mhm.
They're on their headphones or they're watching TV. They could be doing something together. We would always bring in art stuff. Mary, you'd laugh, but very simple, like
Yeah, that's
stickers
great.
and
Yeah.
numbers. And then all the kids were doing it together, and I was so happy to spend money on that. Inside I was crying because I was like, look at how cute they are. The nurses would dress up for Halloween and tell everyone you had to dress up, and she really felt comfortable. And she actually was opening up and talking to everyone. Then I was like, we're doing home hemodialysis. Isn't that awesome? For her, she wanted to continue in center.
Yeah.
And so I had to really balance this like family, home life. My husband being able to, he has to maintain his job, that is like the priority is like, I stopped working. We needed income. Thankfully he works from home. I'm in his office. But that versus her mental health. And, even now at home, I feel like I'm a home hemodialysis expert. And I still think back for that mental health. I just asked the social worker, I said, she needs a therapist. She refuses to get on dialysis now. She doesn't want to do it anymore. She's so sad and she cries all the time. So I don't know, Charlene, to answer your question, I reach out to many groups. We have all these wonderful, especially, like post high school, that high school, it's such a difficult age. We have this group here called Capernaum. It's part of Young Life. It is a Christian spiritual group, and they do something for kids 18 to 21 with all disabilities. And it's quite lovely because they meet every 2 weeks. They get them all together to go to the football game. So they'll have people to go with. For some reason, she just doesn't want to do it. So I can't force her, but they do wonderful parties. They do karaoke, things in the park. I don't know. I'm
Well,
trying.
just
I
so
don't
you know,
really
RSN does have
I've been to
a crafty support group. So maybe if she's into doing crafts and wants to participate, Lori is always welcoming anyone of any age to be part of that.
No, it's just that sometimes that time doesn't line up with.
Yeah.
I
will say that Vinny did the renal prom last year.
Right.
And what an amazing event.
The event in the rain, right?
The event was the most,
in the rain.
I came back home from that and I said, you know what, this completely filled my heart.
Oh,
and this has to always continue, and we always need to do. I used to be an advocate for another organization, and I would sometimes I make bags and I sell them and I raise funds, and I'm like in my head, I'm only going to make sure that I do this to make sure this event happens every year forever. It was so beautiful.
And this year is our 25th anniversary of prom. So it's going to be big. We are so excited to welcome all of our alumni who have been here from the beginning. If they're able to come, new members, new people, please spread the word. Both there as well as any others who are watching. You can sign up on rsnhope.com, come to the prom. There is 0 fees. Everyone can attend for free. And if you are wanting a dress to attend the prom, we have free dresses for all of the attendees as well. So yes, please check into it. I don't know what my time is like. I know we started earlier. So Isela, where are we at on the time?
So we're scheduled to take a break at 12:20.
Okay.
So you've got more time.
Okay.
There were some more questions in the chat if you want to refer to those. But yeah, you've still got some time.
Okay. Yeah. I just know because we started like 10 minutes early, so I wasn't sure if the whole schedule was early. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. And the other questions that we have here.
Charlene, there was a question about food.
Oh yeah, diets. Yes. Let's talk about how we deal with varying diets or the diets for our child, our renal child in your family. I'm trying to think of us. Well, we're a little different now because now both of my girls are off at college. Gemma does come home every now and then, but is more on a regular diet. So we don't have as many issues. I mean, of course, I should always be on a renal diet because I only have one kidney. And we need to make sure that one continues for the rest of my life. But there's a possibility that that won't happen. But what about you guys? What are you doing with the different varying diets in your family?
Well, Vinny was never really on a renal diet, but I was always really wise about how he ate. He had an issue with texture, so I was lucky. He never really craved candy, chips, or anything because, like I said, he grew up in that, so I kept it where that. But I understand with a teenage child who's going into the transplant situation, it's harder because your kids are they've already enjoyed these things. Vinny didn't, so. But he never really had a renal diet. But I always, in the back of my mind, said, "Okay, keep the salt off him." I cook with a lot of garlic and herbs. I've never really been a fan of salt, and just sweets and things like that. I never really introduced that to him. But recently, we had to change his diet, which has been a little bit challenging, going more to a plant-based diet for him because his protein levels were just kind of going up. So, and he's not really a meat eater, so that was really what was weird. So just having to adjust to that. Some plant-based things are okay. Some are just, I couldn't stomach them. And if I can't stomach it, he can't stomach it. I grow a lot of vegetables as well. So he's always been great eating vegetables. Never a problem. Never a problem with that. So it's just kind of introducing a couple different plant-based types of foods into his life. And of course, he doesn't drink soda. He does love everything pumpkin though. So
It's a good time of year for him. Good.
Yeah. So I make him fresh pumpkin puree so he can add it to, foods, but just mainly, watching the protein now more than ever before, counting it and making sure he doesn't exceed his 40 grams per day. Never realized he was probably over doubling it up before. That's why. And just sugar, because the medication they take could eventually lead to diabetes, and his A1C has bounced up a couple times, but it's just something I was prepared for, knowing that these medications can increase his risk.
Yeah. We're always looking at numbers, aren't we, as moms?
Yeah. I'm a numbers mom.
Lab numbers, blood numbers, all of those things. So yes, I mean, Gemma always has to be aware of her sugars because she is she's taking insulin right now because of the transplant meds. She's switching on to a pill form, trying to in the next couple of weeks because she has to go overseas for 6 months. So we need to try to see if we can have to actually worry about insulin. And anyway, different challenge. Michelle, how about you? How about
different challenge, Charlene, but it is all related, really.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people watching who have the same challenge. I mean, listening to Mary, I have to say that I feel like a bad mom. Okay.
That is...
And I know I could do better, but it's just so, remember, I know that I need to do a better job with the meal planning and diet, but we're Asian and salt is like soy sauce, fish sauce, oyster sauce, Hoisin sauce. I'm sorry. You can look at that ingredient and you're like, oh, this only has 2,000% sodium.
Very difficult. Yes. Very difficult.
So hard with the Asian diet. And so I have to admit that I need to do better. I do, because of her liver disease, but it's really hard because honestly, if she wants to eat something and it brings her joy, which is something it does, I let her eat because
there's the balance, right?
Yeah.
Balance, it's so hard. And before I have this incredible tension between the nephrologists and the GI doctors, because the nephro's like protein. And then GI now, my daughter's ammonia levels like out the roof. Protein, animal protein. She's on dialysis 5 days a week now. And it's like no protein. And I'm like, which one?
Yes.
Yep.
And so now, Mary, I got to get with you because we are now doing no animal protein, and I have no idea what to make. My husband,
Yeah.
meat and potatoes. I I don't know what to cook. I really
Yeah,
have,
no, that's my husband, and it's hard. It is. The first month was crazy because I'm like,
right.
I don't know what to do, and you just read, and I was reading plant-based was really good for our kidney
It is supposed to be.
recipients, and
I want
but
it
like
to taste
I'm
good,
lucky.
too.
I'm lucky. Vinny's been a really good eater most of his life, so like when
Yeah.
vegetables, I could pile vegetables, so I just pile up more
Good.
vegetables on his plate than I do anything else. But
Yeah.
he's so skinny, he's not going to gain any weight from all
Yeah.
these vegetables, and they're
Yeah.
like, well, Vinny's not gaining weight. He eats vegetables all the time. How can he gain weight with these?
Good.
It's so
Regulate.
hard. There is such
Yeah.
a balance. I know. Well, Gemma, like I said, when she was going in for transplant at age 14, she was 63 pounds.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
tiny. She's really tiny. And it was all due to all these factors that we
Yep.
were not aware of.
Yeah.
So then she comes out of it. She has diabetes. And they're like, well, she can't have sugar and she can't have this. I'm like, but she needs to gain
God.
weight.
Oh my gosh.
So then you're
Mhm.
like, okay, I
How
just
am I going to get my
eat.
kid to gain weight when he can't have anything that can help him gain weight?
Right.
It's a catch-22 all the way
Yeah.
around. We feel like
It is, I think, one of the most challenging things when we see other people eating.
Yeah.
You want to go, like going out to eat for my daughter's her favorite thing, but you can't do that. And then I
Right.
want to go take out at night after a long day, either at the dialysis center or I'm at UCLA all day. I get home at 5, I'm exhausted. Like the last thing I want to do is make some like
Of
complicated.
course. Yes.
I think those are the only arguments my husband and I really have is like, can you check the protein content of this? And just, what's the protein? I have to make sure it stays. It's just so crazy.
It's so
This
crazy. The
this is a
protein
really crazy thing to deal with. But slowly I'm figuring it out, and some plant-based items I can't do. I won't. But there's a sausage, a plant-based sausage, and it's got feta in it, and it's spinach.
What's the sodium content? Is it okay?
Sodium's not an issue with him.
Oh,
That's the
that's
part. So, but if something is salty, he won't eat it. Because like I say, he didn't grow up eating salt because I cook with lots of garlic.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah, it's got to have lots of garlic in it.
Yeah, okay, that's a good. All right, we'll try that.
Yeah, but it's hard though when you're looking at different doctors asking you to do different diets. I don't.
Yeah,
because the same thing we have her gastro or dietitians are like, well, she needs to gain weight. I'm like, but she can't have this and she can't have that. So, now she's 20, she's 4'10" and will not be any taller. And is 85 pounds.
So
yeah. I mean, she's actually where, proportionally what she should be, but then her doctor's like, well, she should be heavier than that. I'm like, really? Really?
Yeah, what is she weighing at right now?
85.
Yeah. Vinny is
at 4'10". That's actually kind of the right proportions.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Vinny is 5'1", and he's probably he might even be lower this month because of the whole plant-based thing. He goes anywhere from 100 to 105.
Right.
So 5'1", I think, is because, with the kidney disease, they tend to stop growing. And we took him off the growth hormone because it was really affecting his moods really bad. And I just had to, it wasn't helping at this point. Yeah. It was causing other problems. So,
what's funny is I don't even know what those weights mean because I'm only by kilos.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's
like,
too. Yeah.
36.1, 36.1. What is that?
40.7 kilos.
Yeah.
It's like I'm fully metric over here.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. But anyway. So any other final thoughts before we head out? I mean, you guys, both of you are such strong women advocating for your kids and doing what you need to do. And even if you don't think it's perfect, it's good enough for what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to remember that we're all doing our best, the best we can at this moment with this in front of us.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think
so.
I would just like to add 2 things and I think Mary would be on point with me on this, is that, Lori spoke a lot about advocacy yesterday in her session. And I think that just to make sure you're maximizing all the support, governmental support and programs that are out there. I think a lot of times you don't get until you ask. And so I just found out, like, for example, I forgot which governmental agency will give me $5,000 because I need to make my bathroom wheelchair accessible for modifications for the house, accessibility. As an example, I also receive IHSS, in-home supportive services income. It is only related to Medi-Cal, and you basically get paid for taking care of your child who would otherwise be eligible for a long-term care facility. And I was like, well, I'm doing home hemodialysis, so I'm sure my hours will skyrocket. You know, they're like, we don't pay for dialysis because basically you put them on the machine and they sit there.
They've never done dialysis, so they're not aware of what you got to rely on.
And watch what I have to do before and after.
Yeah.
And I did get a few more hours for that, but I think like there is a lot of support out there. Families with respite care, you know, I don't know, Mayor, if your son's followed by regional, the regional center. My daughter also has intellectual disability, so there's a lot of that, maximizing that and just like pushing, asking. And then just for me personally, you know, there's a very fine line between self-pity for myself, just not to get into that downward, dark, black spiral of self-pity. And I don't know if my daughter's going to be here tomorrow and my life just sucks, you know, and I see my friends who are empty nesters and they're traveling to Europe and they're doing the, you know, just, I think for me, just trying to like, I get off social media, or I just once every day think of one thing that I am so thankful for. I feel like, oh my gosh, we are so blessed to have this, or I'm so thankful to have that, or, you know, I'm not living in the Middle East right now. I mean, just whatever it is, remind myself, oh, you know what? Life is short and I am grateful for X, Y, and Z on a daily basis.
Yep. I am super honored to be here with both of you, both Mary and Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Yes. Group hugs. And thank you to the very kind comments that we've gotten on the chat. Shar, Karen, thank you so much. We hope that we're, you know, we can enlighten and let you know that you're not alone. We are all here trying to do our best every day. And like I said earlier, you know, we have empathy for any parent who is going through something that we are also going through. So thank you all for hanging in there, doing the right thing, and just doing the best we can. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back over to Isela.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank you, Charlene, for moderating again such a fantastic panel, and Michelle and Mary for being so candid about your experiences and just willing to share. I know it's so helpful to our participants and whoever may be viewing the recording later on.
And a shout out to our corporate mission partners for making this happen.